Hi, it's Ali from Inspiralized, and today we're in my kitchen and we are making my kale and sausage soup with spiralized carrots or carrot noodles. This is just one of those great Italian flavored soups that warm your soul from the inside, and it has plenty of protein, lots of veggies from the kale and the carrots, and it has simple seasonings, so it really lets the sausage speak and all the flavors absorb into the broth. It saves well, it feeds crowds, it's great. I love it. I make it a lot for Lou. He loves the meatiness of the soup. So we're going to start with just telling you what you need to make the recipe. We're going to start with 6 cups of chicken broth. We have some red pepper flakes to give it a little spice. We have sweet Italian fennel sausage. If you like extra spice, you could use hot Italian sausage here. 2 garlic cloves that have been minced. We have diced red onion, a little bit of oregano, and you could season this with basil and parsley and a few other things, but I like to keep it pretty simple. And then we just have a little bit of Parmesan cheese, which we sprinkle over at the end so that every bite is nice and salty and creamy. And then we have olive oil and salt and pepper. And of course, kale and our carrot. So now that you have everything you need to get started, let's start the recipe. We're going to start by chopping up 4 cups of kale. And you want to make sure, as always with kale, that you're peeling away that thick, tough stem. So I'm just going to really quickly get a bunch of leaves and take them off of the stem. And you could also slice these, but I like to kind of just pull them as I go. And then we're going to make 4 cups. So I would say it's about 4 to 5 leaves. Keep pulling this off. Okay. And we'll do one more. Put the rest over there. And now that we have our kale, we're just going to chop. So I'm going to pull it all together. And you want nice, big, thick chunks of kale. You don't want them finely shredded or anything like that, because you want to get nice chunks of kale as you're eating this. And don't worry, the broth will soften it up. Oop. The broth will soften it up as you cook it, so it won't be crunchy or anything like that. So this is about 4 cups. Let's be 1, 2, maybe this is 3 cups. I'm going to do a little bit more. And you could also just tear this with your hands. Okay, so that'll make the 4th cup. So now that we have all of our kale, we are going to spiralize our carrot. And the first step that we'll need to do is we will need to peel that carrot. And you're probably looking at this carrot and saying, where the heck did she get such a big carrot? I'm very lucky. My grocery store near me has big carrots, but I find that if you go to Asian grocery stores, they tend to have nice big carrots, or at the farmer's market, if there's one open near you, they have large carrots as well. So we'll start off by just slicing the ends off flatly and evenly like we always do. And I'm actually going to cut this in half, because if you're just starting off spiralizing, it's nice to cut the veggie in half, because then you have more leverage when you're spiralizing. So I'm just going to cut it in half and then peel it, and I'm just using a simple veggie peeler. And I will leave a link in the description of this video in case you want a good peeler, because I know I get the question all the time, but this is just a simple OXO peeler. Okay. And then once we have that all peeled, we are going to use spaghetti blade, which is the thinnest blade on the Spiralizer, and that's going to make those really nice noodles. Okay. So now that we're done there, I'm going to clear my workspace and we're ready to spiralize. So now I'm going to grab my Spiralizer and I'm going to secure it nice and firmly to the countertop. And I'm going to set mine on blade D. Now, whatever spiralizer you're using, you just want to make sure that you use the blade that makes the thinnest spaghetti noodles. I'm just going to grab a plate here so that it can catch the noodles as they come out. And you're going to center your veggie on the Spiralizer. Make sure you press that handle in to secure, and then all we need to do is spiralize. And there you go. And this is a great point that this is happening right now. If you ever notice that there are little half-moon circles, that means that your vegetable kind of went off center as you were spiralizing. So all you need to do is take it off and realign it, because you'll notice that this has turned off center, this funky looking thing. It should be totally on the center. And I actually have a full video on that and how to avoid the half moon. So if you'd like to watch that, you could click right here to watch. Okay, so we'll go again. And now you'll notice that the noodles are coming out much more cleanly and they're not breaking up as much. Okay, so we have 1/2 of the carrot spiralized. We're gonna do the other half. And, ooh, got a little kale on my carrot. And I'll mention also, carrots will dye your Spiralizer a little orange, so to avoid it staying orange, we're going to want to clean your Spiralizer right after. Okay. Again, it's going off a little center. This happens a lot with tougher veggies like a carrot. So we're just gonna finish this one up right here. Okay, so now we have our beautiful carrot noodles, which are very messy right now on my countertop. Now that we have all of our ingredients ready to go, we're gonna start with the sausage. So this is 3/4 of a pound of sweet Italian fennel sausage. I've already decased it, and now I'm just going to crumble it into the medium pot over here. And I'm just gonna use my hands and kind of just pull it apart. And we're gonna further break this apart with a wooden spoon, but for now, just gonna use my hands. And we're gonna cook this, and what's great about cooking the sausage is that we won't need to add any extra oil because the oil will release from that sausage, and then we'll add in the onions and the garlic and everything, so we can skip a little bit of oil. I'm just gonna keep crumbling here. And if you wanted to do this a little lighter, you could use chicken sausage. Obviously, if you didn't eat meat, you could do something like some cannellini beans, some white beans. Those would be really, really nice. You could stir just about anything into the soup. It has very great classic Italian flavors in it. And I can already tell it's gonna make this kitchen smell delicious. Okay, and our last one here. And basically what we're gonna do is we're just gonna let this sausage cook until it's browned on all sides. All right, our last one. Now I'm just gonna take my spoon and just break up the sausage a little bit. I like the big sausage chunks. I think it's nice when you're eating the soup, but sometimes it's easier to eat when the pieces are smaller. And also if you're serving a lot of people, you wanna make sure that everyone gets a little bit of sausage in their soup. Okay, and once you've sort of crumbled that a little bit further, you just stir and make sure that every side gets browned because we wanna make sure that that sausage is cooked all the way through. And let that sit for about a minute or two, let that side brown, and then just keep flipping it. Now that our sausage is all nice and browned, we're going to add in the onions and the garlic. And like I said before, you don't need to add in any olive oil. If you wanted the flavor, you could definitely add in a little bit, but as you'll see, there's enough here in the pot to cook the rest. So we have 2 minced garlic cloves, so this can be really nice and garlicky. And it stirs in really nicely with the fennel that's, you can see sort of peeking out of that sausage. So I'm gonna give that a really big stir, and we're gonna cook those onions until they're translucent, so about 4 minutes. And in the meantime, I'm going to add in a pinch of red pepper flakes, because a day does not go by when I don't have red pepper flakes or avocado. Those are my 2 things that I have every day. Okay, and I'm actually going to cook this for another minute and then add in the oregano. Now that those onions are nice and softened, I'm going to add in that teaspoon of oregano and my kale. So that was 4 cups of chopped kale. And I'm going to season with salt and pepper. And I like to go light on the salt because you can always add it at the end, but you can't take it away. That's the rule. We got some nice fresh ground pepper. And I'm gonna stir that to let the kale cook and soften. And we only need it to soften a little bit because we're gonna add in that broth, and that's what's gonna really cook it further. So just kind of stir to combine and let the kale absorb all the yummy flavors from the sausage and the garlic. Okay. All right, now that all the kale is combined, we can add in the veggie broth, and we're actually gonna add in 6 cups, so one of these is 4 cups. I'm gonna pour that right in, and I'm using low sodium always chicken broth, and this is the Pacific brand, it's organic. I love this, it's the one I use at home. So we're gonna add that all in there, and I'll also pour in the other 2 cups while I'm at it. Okay, and if you're sensitive to salt, you could always cut this with a little bit of water to dilute it. And I'm gonna stir that up, and I'm gonna raise the heat all the way to high so that it brings to a boil. And once it's boiling, I'll add in those carrot noodles and just let it cook for a few more minutes, and then we're done. All we need is the Parmesan. All right, now that the soup is bubbling up, we can add in those carrot noodles. I'm gonna grab them from the plate over here. And you don't have to add in all of the noodles, obviously, from your carrot, but it's all preference. If you're sensitive to carrot, you don't like it, it's too sweet for you, but I totally recommend adding in a bunch of carrots because it's just nutritious, it adds a nice crunch, it does sweeten up the soup a little bit, and it adds a beautiful color. So I'm just gonna stir that in here and combine it a little bit, And we're gonna let that sit for about 3 minutes, just until the noodles absorb the moisture. And you'll see that the carrots will sort of fluff up really nicely. And I always say that carrot noodles, when they're simmered in water or broth, they kind of take on the texture of a whole wheat spaghetti noodle. I really like it, it's very, very nice. Now that our soup is done, the carrot noodles have absorbed all of that moisture. It's colorful, the flavor's really sad and strengthened in the broth. We are ready to pour a bowl. And of course, we still haven't added in that Parmesan cheese, and that's gonna be the cherry on the top at the end. I'm gonna serve myself up a bowl, and if these carrot noodles are too long, because I forgot to trim them actually, always remember to trim your noodles after you spiralize. But if they're too long, I grabbed a pair of scissors so I can cut them as I go. So when you pour yourself a bowl, you just wanna make sure, obviously, that you start with the broth. So you make sure you have that as your base. It's nice and steamy. Okay, and then we're gonna add in the carrot noodles and grab a little bit of the kale. Very steamy. Okay. I'm gonna add in the kale and the carrot noodles, and as you see, the noodles are really long. I'm just gonna come in here with a kitchen shear and cut them as I go. So add those down there. And just make sure you pick out a little bit of sausage for yourself. You don't wanna forget that. Just kind of pick it out. I'm gonna add in a little bit more carrot. Okay. A little bit more broth, and that is it. And now we get to add in the Parmesan cheese, which is gonna add that final saltiness and a little bit of creaminess as it sort of absorbs into the broth and melts a little bit. Just gonna sprinkle that on top. And you could have added this into the pot before you served it and stirred it in and let it melt a little bit. And that is it, we're done. That is my sausage and carrot noodle soup with kale. It smells delicious. It has a beautiful color, packed with nutrients from the kale and the carrots, obviously packed with protein from the sausage. The broth has absorbed all the flavor with the oregano and the red pepper flakes and the garlic. It's just lovely. So now, if you don't mind, I'm gonna try a little bit. Make sure we get some carrot, and here's another reason to use my kitchen shears. Okay, try that. Carrot noodles really take on a life of their own when they're simmered in a nice broth. You will be amazed at how good they taste. This soup is wonderful. It's great to have on hand. It saves really, really nicely in the refrigerator. It's a great one for groups if you're having guests over and you want to make them something comforting but light and healthy. It's amazing. I hope you make this recipe. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you love this recipe, and I can't wait to see your pictures of it. Make sure to always use the hashtag Inspiralized when you're posting your pictures on social media. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And of course, subscribe if you'd like to see more videos from my Everyday Inspiralized series in the future. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye.